Hey everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing I Saw the TV Glow. Um, this is a film that came out recently. It's a horror film. There will be spoilers in this review, so be warned. Um, the film is a trans allegory, pretty obviously indirectly. I don't know if I would say enjoyed this movie, but I loved it. I loved it so much. It had a really deep impact on me. The psychological terror of the movie really spoke to me very profoundly and very deeply. I left the theater feeling unsettled and detached from my reality. I felt disassociated when I was walking out of the movie theater. I felt almost like I could be one of these characters, and perhaps there was some sort of malicious Mr. Melancholy-esque figure out to get me, and, something of that nature. I thought that the representation of gender dysphoria that was shown in this movie was very effective and very much matched my experience with it. Not exactly, obviously it's a different thing for everyone, but it certainly felt like an accurate portrayal and representation. And I appreciated greatly seeing any representation of gender dysphoria in especially an in-theaters film. Gender dysphoria is something that I rarely see portrayed in any media. You really have to dig to find it, and to have it in a blockbuster film was really special for me. Owen was such a relatable character for me. I have really struggled for a long time with repressing my transness and femininity and these sorts of things. It's something that can be really difficult. And even after coming out, I had a long period of time where I sort of backslid. And, I knew that I was trans and I knew that I was going by a new name, but I was sort of just acting like I was, a male, and I didn't really care, and, all this stuff. And I put this wall up, I put a facade up, even after coming out. And that phase in my life was so painful and so difficult and so uncomfortable and so unpleasant, and I was bringing it on myself. And it was due to social pressure, but I was bringing it on myself. And the depiction of that repression that was showed in this movie was really effective for me. I love that in order to become their true selves, they had to bury themselves alive. That was such a powerful metaphor for me. I think a big part of what made coming out so hard for me, and what made actually becoming who I am so hard for me, was that the old me didn't want to die. I loved the portrayal of they have these alternate memories that are constructed. They have these entire personalities and entire perceptions and entire modes of existence that have been constructed for them. And in this case, it's by a super moon demon named Mr. Melancholy. But, in my case, I had a personality, and I had a life, and I had a perception, and I had relationships that were all defined by the fact that they had been constructed as a reaction and a defense mechanism against the world we inhabit. And, that person that existed, that I used to be, had a different life in a lot of ways than I do. They had a different mode of existence. They were a different person. And, becoming me now, it felt like that person died. And that was a process that was painful and drawn out and not instant. That was a process that took months. And, little parts of me would die little by little by little. And it was incredibly painful, and it hurt, and it felt like burying myself alive in a coffin and suffocating, And it was worth it, because once I did suffocate fully, once that old version of me suffocated fully, then I was able to emerge, as myself. But that process of suffocation was incredibly difficult and unpleasant. Aside from the parts in the movie that are specifically focused around gender dysphoria and transness, I thought that it was a really excellent metaphor for the dangers of conformity in general and the dangers of not being yourself in general. Even if Owen wasn't a trans individual, he'd still be someone who was sacrificing his true life, his true self, to conform and to fit in to society. He is displayed throughout the movie as someone who doesn't like to cause conflict, who doesn't like to cause any issues, and who wants to just kind of bow down and let other people decide things for him. You know, he wants to stay in his hometown. He doesn't want his friend to leave home. He wants to call the police on the friend. I love the description he gives of the years passing by and turning, time starts to move faster and he just lives this life. And that imagery of him working as at the ball pit towards the end of the film is so powerful. It was to me anyway, the idea of just letting your life pass you by, conforming to social expectations and social standards, getting a job that you hate, fitting a role that you don't fit to be a part of society. You lose yourself, and it's so easy, especially in our modern world, to lose yourself to that. And I thought that this film showed really powerfully how horrifying that is, how horrific it is to live in a reality where you've lost yourself to conformity. That transcends a purely transgender experience. That's an experience that anyone who's living in this present industrial world would experience. There is still time. It was such a powerful message, and it's one that I know I've seen a lot of people on TikTok talk about and say how much it affected them, and it's one that affected me. I think it's a really beautiful message. There is still time. It's never too late to be who you are, whether that's being trans or just being yourself. I also want to shout out the fantastic 80s dark fantasy vibe that the movie had, the special effects reminiscent of The Dark Crystal. Really great work. Really, really great stuff. Really fantastic. So yeah, I loved this movie. I want to see it again and again and again. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you saw it. If you haven't, go see it. It's really wonderful. Thank you so much for listening to my review, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.